Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITTH number 166. I'm your host, Justin Bruni, but I got Nick Davis and Emran Khan with me this morning. Happy Sunday, fellas. How are we doing?
What's up, guys?
Doing good, guys. Doing good. Another week closer to football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We already got our first dose of football. We got the preseason game this past Thursday with the Cowboys and Steelers. Did you guys enjoy? Watch most of it? Not most of it?
Yeah, I watched most of it. It was good to see football again. It just sucks that it's not the starters because you can't you can see bad things and comment on it, but it's kind of take it with a grain of salt because it's not all the starters and stuff like that. But I was very impressed with the AAF legend Garrett Gilbert for the Cowboys. He looked poised under pressure and was hitting the open guys. So I'd be happy with him being the backup for Dak. He looked better than Dalton did anytime last year, to be honest.
Fair enough. How about you, Emran?
Yeah, it's just nice to see football. I caught a little bit of the game. Excited for the Bears' first one on what is that now? Saturday. See how I almost by habit I almost said I can't wait to see how Mitch looks, but Mitch is no longer here. So I am excited to see how Dalton looks and Fields looks, of course, with the offense along with some other guys. It's going to be exciting to see them against real competition.
Yeah, absolutely, especially the Bears because that quarterback situation. It's going to be interesting to see how they cut up the playing time between Dalton, Fields, Foles. I mean, I'd like to see Fields out there, but I'd also like to see him get that protection as well, starter status. But we'll see what we get. He's been lighting up camp. He was ripping apart the first string defense the other day on Friday. So we'll see what we get out of him in some of these other games. I watched every bit of the Steelers and Cowboys game. Sorry, blood's itching. When you're an addict, you're an addict. I have a problem, don't have a problem, don't really care. So I watched all of it. It was good stuff. I bet on the Steelers money line. Nothing crazy, but was still a little bit more confident in their second, third string starters. Mason Rudolph and Ben DiNucci, the garbage quarterbacks of the league. You always hear me dog Mason Rudolph about how he's worse than Ben DiNucci. Wow, couldn't get worse than Ben DiNucci preseason. I think he had 5 completions through an interception. He looked terrible. Rudolph didn't look good. He muffed a snap on his first drive when they were looking pretty good. And Chase Claypool gave us a little bit of a scare. Had a nice little extended play down the field. Nice catch down the sideline. But then he comes up, kind of limping, grabbing his arms, grabbing his head. Cut to commercial. Get up, Chase. Get up. That's all I could yell. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good game. Would have liked to see more out of the Cowboys, but I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the MO for hard knocks teams. That first preseason game, they don't really show up so much. So we'll see what we get out of them going forward. But I do believe Rush did look up, or Gilbert looked pretty good. I agree with Nick. So, any big plans for Sunday, fellas?
Nope. Chilling.
Nope. Nothing.
Yep. Chilling.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. We're probably going to go out and do something. We went out the other night, went out to dinner. Wasn't that great. Didn't have the best experience. So I think we're going to go out today and try to double down and catch back on that. So see what happens. Before we get started, everybody, please be aware of our fundraiser that we've started with the Autism Society of America. You can text to the Hizzy below if you want to help us donate. We're going to be running another contest from today, from 2 weeks from today, because we're going to be off next week. Nick and I will be going to the Fantasy Expo in Canton, Ohio. Really looking forward to that. Linking up with everybody in the fantasy community. So we'll be off next week and back in 2 weeks. So we'll have a 2-week, prize package. Whoever's the largest donator across these 2 weeks, you either get your favorite team hoodie, some To the Hizzy merchandise, or a $25 Amazon gift card. I'll leave that up on the bottom here as we get started just for through our first segment here. We are going to be debating some running backs today. We're going through our top 15 running backs in PPR formats. Do either of you gentlemen want to tee it off? You want to go through your starting 5? I think both of you two have the same starting 5.
Yeah. The top 5 to me, it's really just cutting hairs. It's really when you do the eye test, you're A or B. It's really what do you want out of your running back? CMC, he's gonna probably get 1,000 yards and 100 receiving receptions. And then And yeah, definitely the kickers. Kickers sucked. It was terrible. Like, what are you gonna do? Kick the ball more? Like, I got no tips for you. Like, there's nothing more you can do. But CMC, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook, those are the top running backs. And there's not really too much debate. It's really just like what you want out of your running backs for anything. For me, I really like Derrick Henry out of that group, but just looking at the numbers, CMC and Alvin Kamara are definitely probably going to get more points because Henry's more of just a rushing back, the 2-down back. It's probably third down most times because they're just like, screw it, we'll give the ball to him. We don't care. But yeah, I like Henry for sure. But CMC and Alvin Kamara, the points are going to be there for sure.
How about you, Imran?
For what I'm looking at for the top 5 running backs is who's going to get volume, who's got a solid place in the offense, no committees, or in a decent offense or an offense that goes through them. CMC and Kamara, especially Kamara. I was really almost tempted to put Kamara at 1 because that offense is hurting right now for playmakers. Right, there's no Michael Thomas, Drew Brees is gone, Jared Cook is gone. I think their receiver with the most experience is Chris Hogan, who's never played a snap for the Saints. So that offense is going to go through Kamara, both in the receiving game and the rushing game. And I think it adds sneaky value to Latavius Murray, too. But I think Kamara, his volume is just going to be there. So I think he's going to be in a good spot. CMC, I just went with him. I think that offense is a little bit better. So I don't think it's going to be harder for teams to take him out of the game, with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Terrence Marshall added to the mix, too. And then kind of rounding out my top 5, Derrick Henry, he's just a beast. Last year, I wasn't as high on him. I remember I said I was kind of worried about taking him in the first round because I felt like he'd fall off. I think this year he's going to be in a much better spot because they have another threat in Julio, who's a much better second option than Corey Davis was. So teams are going to have a harder time stacking. So I think he's in a good spot. Dalvin Cook, really, the only thing I worry about with him is injury, but he was healthy last year and he killed it. And then top 5. I'm banking on – I was going back and forth between Zeke and Barkley, who I think both are going to bounce back. Zeke's, not an injury he's bouncing back from just from not having Dak. But Barkley, he's a game-changing talent, and he's a beast in the receiving game. Even with all the weapons that the Giants added, I still think Danny Dimes is going to check down a lot to Barkley. I just think that's just how that offense is going to work and let him create. So that was kind of my thinking with my top 5.
All right, right on. I'm going to jump into mine here. A little bit different than your guys's. I have a big shot that I'm swinging here with Eckler at number 4. But just taking it from the top, I agree with CMC and Kamara. So across the board, each of us have CMC and Kamara as 1 and 2. And I think that just speaks volumes in PPR formats, right? I think Derrick Henry is probably number 1 in standard approaches or standard leagues just because he's just going to have all that volume and red zone opportunities. He had 17 total touchdowns last year. Dalvin Cook, who I actually have at number 3, he had 41 less touches than Henry, but still had the same amount of touchdowns, So that just also goes to show you that you can be, a speed and power back who also catches passes back there and still have the same amount of value as a guy like Derrick Henry, who's rushing for over like 2,000 yards just on the ground. He only had like 19 catches last year. So I actually have Derrick Henry back at number 7. I'll get back to him here in a little bit. Number 1, CMC. This is just a guy that I think we all perceive can easily have over 25 touches every single week. He's the focal point of the Panthers offense. They get a nice little upgrade at quarterback, at least in their opinion, with Sam Darnold coming over from the Jets over Teddy Bridgewater. Like you mentioned, they added Terrace Marshall, a very West Coast style offense. They don't really have any other experienced running backs behind him. So outside of an injury, CMC should be in the top 3 again for running backs. I think that's just an easy lock. Alvin Kamara, like you alluded to, Emron, a lot more opportunity this year. He had 270 touches last year. The year prior, he had 252. So I think this is the year that we get over the hump. Like he's going to have like 325 plus touches because who else is going to do it for him? Who else is going to move the chains when they really get into the trenches of this season? And I think we're going to be looking at more Alvin Kamara as a receiver this year than anything. This is a team that did sign Devonta Freeman in the offseason. Not like that's a big deal or anything like that, but after the injury to Thomas, you mentioned Hogan. They also added Freeman. They did lose Jared Cook, but a lot of people are in on Adam Troutman and some of these other pieces. Marquez Galloway is getting a lot of talk at camp, but at the end of the day, I do think Alvin Kamara is going to be the identity of this offense and does have an opportunity now with Thomas out to really compete with CMC for that number 1 spot. So I agree they are pretty interchangeable. With
the
Cook,
one thing
like
I wanted to add with Kamara, just while you're on Kamara, is he is a touchdown machine too, which really helps out. Because 2 years ago he dropped down. He only had 6 touchdowns, but every other year before that, 15, 13. Last year, 20. So it's not just the touches with him. He's really banking it in for you too.
Yeah, he actually had more touchdowns last year than Derrick Henry as well. So another reason to keep him ahead. At number 3, I've got Dalvin Cook. Again, he's just like a triple threat running back: power, speed, pass catching, can do it all. And where I don't see like CMC getting taken off the field for goal line work, it's just not something that you're going to necessarily see from Cook whatsoever. Like, yeah, they'll sprinkle in some Alexander Madison here and there just to kind of give Cook some rest. But it's not really in any of the high opportunity moments, right? It's not like he's getting pulled out of the red zone. You could see Alvin Kamara maybe get a few less opportunities with Latavius Murray still on the roster, right? Inside the 5 or something like that might get a little bit more creative, or even like a Taysom Hill type of read option where he might poach a touchdown here or there. But again, because of that volume still being more so available with these guys being out, I still have Kamara ahead of him. At number 4, again, my big swing here is Austin Eckler. The Chargers are getting Joe Lombardi over from the Saints. Wow, what a situation for him. He goes from, Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees, Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and now he shifts to the West Coast with a young gunslinging Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, also brought over Jared Cook from the Saints. So there's a lot to like about that offense. Eckler was hurt last year. In 2019, he did finish at RB4. So this wouldn't be, unfamiliar territory if he were to finish in the top 5. I'm looking for a big year out of that offense in general. And I think a lot more people are starting to buy in more on, Justin Herbert being a top 5 quarterback, Keenan Allen being a top 5 wide receiver. And I think that's just going to equate for more and more opportunities for Eckler. And obviously Melvin Gordon gone, Justin Jackson back behind him, really not a lot of competition for touches. So I think that there's going to be a lot to be excited about with Eckler this year. And then Barkley, I have at number 5. For me, it's actually kind of tough keeping him this high because they're talking about him potentially missing week 1. So I did have him at number 4, but the more and more that I hear about Barkley's situation, about him missing time, I'm starting to pull him back. And I could even pull him back a few more spots as we get closer to week 1 if the news isn't getting more and more positive, because we have 17 games. We're all talking about, all of our guys get this extra layer or level of production. We got to get it, though. You know what I mean? And if he's going to be missing more and more time, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned. Right now, he's getting drafted in the beginning of the second round. That's not bad, but it's certainly not RB5 territory. I think in my most recent mock, RB5 went to Jonathan Taylor, a little rich for me after the given events in Indy, losing Nelson and Wentz. But, still don't hate it. In this one, Barkley went in the 4th pick in the second round behind Elliott, Eckler, and Aaron Jones, who will also get here too soon. So just a situation to monitor. Last year, he was hurt. The year before that, I believe he finished, RB9 in 2019. So still not even in the top 5. I think he was dealing with injuries that year. But in 2018, he was like 1 or 2. I can't remember what it was. It was interchangeable. Had 90 catches, I think 1,300 receiving yards. So that's what everybody wants to see him get back to. But because it's still been almost 3 years now, there is still a little bit of concern there. I would say he's like that next guy behind Dalvin Cook that can, be that power and speed rusher and still catch a lot of passes back there. Just the dang injuries that concern me. That's all. Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump into tier 2. Nick, you want to jump into yours? Get it pulled up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Nick's tier 2.
Yeah, so I got Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, and Zeke. I really like Nick Chubb in Cleveland, even with Kareem Hunt there. I kind of got a feeling that Kareem Hunt's going to be moved just because they really want to focus on Chubb. Josh Jacobs, he's the bell cow in Las Vegas. Kenyon Drake's there, but even with that there, he's still going to get the bulk of the rushes. And then Antonio Gibson, I really like him in Washington. He did very well last year, considering that basically their left guard is a revolving door of just some Jags. And he's still got some great yardage. And then Jonathan Taylor, I think he's going to do very well this year. He improved as the season went on, and I was very impressed with his progressions. And then Zeke, he's going to be 10 for me. I really love Zeke, but it's almost like he's a bad fit for the offense. I do think that he is going to get some volume, but and I think him losing 10 pounds, which was mentioned during the Hall of Fame game, I think that's going to help him a lot with being more of a third down back. If he can kind of like show up and have his talent come to the passing game more, I think that he can definitely be top 10 running back this year.
Yeah, so for me in my second wave, I actually have Zeke at 6. That offense is, one of the more prolific offenses in the NFL. So anytime you have an
Mhm.
offense like that can score and put up points, and Zeke is a dual threat. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can be a problem in space. So I trust him to bounce back this year, like Nick mentioned. He trimmed down a little bit. I think he did feel a little bit of pressure last year from seeing the game-breaking ability that Tony Pollard displays. And we all
Mhm.
know running backs, the older you get, unfortunately, the more expendable you become. So I think Zeke will have a bounce back year in that offense. Nick Chubb is just an extremely efficient running back. When he gets the
Mhm.
ball, he makes big plays. He scores touchdowns. Even with the time missed last year, he still had nearly 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns. And that's with Kareem Hunt there. And the way that offense utilizes both running backs is fantastic. They're a run first team, and they can just
Mhm.
kill you in multiple ways. But so I think Chubb is very safe here. Aaron Jones, he had a really great year a couple years ago. He nearly had the 20 touchdowns. Still a decent year last year. I think, again,
Mhm.
another running back on a good offense, right? Rodgers is back. If Rodgers wasn't here, I think he might have been outside of my top 12. But I trust him in that offense. No Jamal Williams. They do have A.J. Dillon, who should probably get some more carry, but I think he'll still have a solid year for the Packers. And a lot of people might be surprised by this. I don't know why, but I have David Montgomery in the top 10 at number 9, and it's not a
Mhm.
homer or anything like that. If you look at the stats from the last year, he when he's given the opportunity, right, the offense does well, the team does well, and so does he. 2 years
Mhm.
ago, when he got 14 or more carries, just 14, they were 7-1, and the one game they lost was on a last-second field goal miss, so they would have been 8-0. And then last year, in the last 7 games last year, he had 700 rushing yards and 8 total touchdowns in the last 7 games. In the last 7 games, and he missed one game last year, and he finished 5th in rushing, over 50 catches, and over 10 total touchdowns. And now a lot of people this year are worried that, Tariq Cohen's coming back, so that's receiving work that's going away. Not so fast. Tariq Cohen, who blew his ACL out, in week 3 last year, he's not back yet. And he may not be back until, middle of the season. So that's more receiving work for Montgomery. So I think he's ascending, and he's cut some weight too. So I think he's going to be a more explosive threat. And number 10, this is where I was kind of fighting with Gibson and Montgomery. Gibson finished last year also really well, 11 total touchdowns, running the ball. I think
Mhm.
there's more opportunities this year for him to get involved in the receiving game, because I think he can be a really explosive weapon for the football team. And so I think second year in the NFL, and with Fitzpatrick, I think there's going to be better quarterback play there. So I think he's going to
Mhm.
benefit from that. We already know he can score the ball. I think this year you're going to probably see him top over 1,000 yards, and I think he could get close to 50 receptions this year as well.
Right, right. Yeah, I like a lot of those picks here. I'm gonna bring your list back up because I want to kind of go through them again here. So with Nick, absolutely 100% agree on Chubb. I have Chubb at, I believe, the same. No, I have him at 8 actually. So I have Aaron Jones at 6. So I guess I'll just jump in with that. Aaron Jones versus those guys. I just think the Packers offense is going to be more built around him with Jamal Williams gone. AJ Dillon still, a very versatile running back, but he's still more power oriented. He can catch passes out of the backfield, but I just feel like Jones is going to get more PPR work because they haven't really added any dynamic threats to the offense. They got Randall Cobb in a trade. They re-signed Alan Lazard. Obviously, Devontae Adams is going to be there, but I just see, the Aaron Rodgers farewell Green Bay tour just throttling some of these stars. Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones specifically. I moved them up significantly after Aaron Rodgers returned. I had Aaron Jones at number 11. And that's how far I moved him up 5 spots just because of the Aaron Rodgers factor. With Jordan Love, J-Lo there, I wasn't really expecting much, but Aaron Jones is still, an elite running back. He did have, what was it, close to 20 touchdowns 2 years ago?
Yep.
It was 18 or 19 or something like
Yep.
that. So he flirted with it. I think that he's in line for a big year. He just signed a contract extension, just got paid. I think they're going to use him quite a bit. And LaFleur's offense does focus around the run. So I think that that's something that's going to be very appetizing for fantasy owners. Then I go into Derrick Henry. Obviously, you guys have him up a little bit higher. I just feel with the addition of Julio Jones that they do actually get a little bit more vertical. I think that a lot of people are still sleeping on Anthony Ferkshire. I think that he's going to have a reliable role in this offense. There's just an extra mouth to feed, and that's really all I see. So that's why I haven't pulled back. He's finished top 5 in PPR the last 2 seasons. So I just see the return of Saquon Barkley and CMC just holding him back a little bit. Nick Chubb, Nick, you have him all the way up at 6. I really can't argue with that. I don't think that the Browns are going to move Hunt. If anything, I think that Hunt just helps Chubb's helps Chubb keep a safer floor, because it just keeps the offense rolling. You really have to pick your poison, who you're going to stop when they're both on the field. And I feel like Kareem Hunt is a great refresher for Nick Chubb. Eventually he's going to come off the field, take a breather. He's not like an every down back because they have Kareem Hunt. And that offensive line there is just beautiful, the best in the division, in the AFC North, bar none. So I think that's going to be a nice two-headed monster. And I believe I have Kareem Hunt at like running back 25, which is a lot lower than I had him from last year. So I think there is going to be more Nick Chubb usage this year. I don't know if they would move Kareem Hunt. It seems like a good idea in practicality, but I think this is a team that's really hungry for a Super Bowl. So I think they're going to feed everybody here. And again, just why I haven't been just a little bit back, right? I do have Joe Mixon at 9. You guys don't have him in your top 10. Is there a specific reason why you hold him back?
Because he didn't do anything last year. Like,
well, he's hurt.
I understand, but I don't know. Like he has that potential to do it, but I got to see it in the NFL and see a consistent like 17 games now, or at least a full season put together. So for me, I'm kind of out on Joe Mixon right now until I see more.
How about you, Imran?
For me, the injury is the biggest concern. It's just making sure he's healthy and available this year. I think he has a chance to be a really I wouldn't call him a league winner potentially this year, but I think he could be someone that provides a really big boost to your team. If you get him in the middle to the end of the second round and he's healthy this year, I think this offense is going to be fun to watch because I think their defense is going to be bad. And I have him I have him in my next tier coming up, so I'll talk a little bit more about that there. I just like the situation's much better for guys like Gibson and Montgomery and some of the other people we'll talk about in the next wave.
Yeah, sure. I think Mixon's going to have a great opportunity this year. The Bengals are going to be playing from behind consistently. The offense is going to be more vertical. I think that's going to help him catch more passes. The last 2019, the last year he was healthy, he had 313 touches, 1,400 total yards. I think there's a lot to like there. And that was with him being an RB12 with 1,400 yards on 300 touches. So he was obviously hurt last year, didn't get enough playing time. But Joe Burrow is the real deal. The offensive line may not be great, but it's better, at least, than it was in years past. So I think there is more to like about Joe Mixon this year. So I'm keeping him inside the top 10. And he is another guy that, when the team does have steady, game flow, when they're not always playing from behind, he's getting those 20 touches a game. So even if he trims down a little bit, to 15 to 17 touches a game because they can't run the ball as much, at least I feel safe knowing that a majority of those touches are going to be catching the ball out of the backfield for an offensive line that's still better than it was, but still not great. So that's why I really like him there. And then I have Elliott at 10. Nick, you had Elliott at 10. Where did you have him at, Imran? 6?
I had him at 6.
Yeah, to me, I just feel like the emergence of Tony Pollard is going to, make him more of a third down back, and you're going to try to probably rest Elliott a little bit more. They paid him a lot of money a couple of seasons ago in the offseason, so I feel like they really want to protect that investment, and they may not necessarily overwork him. I hold him this high still because the offense is supposed to be so great, right? Like none of us expect, the Dallas defense to be out of this world, but at the same time, you have to expect that Zeke Elliott is going to get a decent amount of work no matter what, whether they're playing from behind or they're really trying to, slow things down, grind out the clock, whatever it is, maybe late in a game. But I do see Pollard having more and more of a role as we go forward with the Cowboys here. So I hold him back just a little bit. I just like some of these other situations a little bit more. All right, let's go to Nick's third tier. Or that's sorry.
So my third tier, I only have 4 for some reason. Oh, I got 15 actually. So I got CEH, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris. For me, it's kind of like my prove it tier where I saw some good things happening. Also DeAndre Swift. There's some good things happening, but I need to see a little bit more. So it's kind of like I'm betting on their potential. CEH, he kind of made me eat my words last year. Like I didn't think he was going to do too much. And I think that being another year under Andy Reid with that offense, he's just going to get more volume. Austin Eckler, he got hurt last year, and I want to see if he can stay healthy this year. Joe Mixon, same boat. Najee Harris, he's like JT or Jonathan Taylor to me in terms of like production. Like I see him progressing throughout the year, but there's kind of high expectations coming in, so it's kind of going to seem like he's going to disappoint, I feel, a little bit, but I think he's going to get better as the season goes on. And then DeAndre Swift, there's no more Kerryon Johnson to really like take away carries for him in Detroit. He did have some progressions last year, but I just need to see a little bit more from him before I start raising him in the rankings.
Okay. How about you, Emron?
Sure. So I kick off my third wave with CEH, and kind of going back to what I said with a couple other backs. He's on arguably the best offense in football, and he's going to be the primary back. No more Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be him, and I think we had a lot of high expectations for him last year, and he had some decent games, and he wasn't a bust by any means in year one, but I think he left more to be desired. And I think this year we're going to see him used a lot better in the passing game with no Le'Veon Bell, who they signed, in the middle of last year, and they tried to force him into the offense basically, and it just wasn't working. I think he's just going to have a really good year. And I think he could be, a really good value pick here too. If you get him in the second to third round, he could be a big increase. And next person I have is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he finished the year strong as well. I'm concerned about this team. Carson Wentz is down, so we're looking at Jacob Eason possibly playing right. I don't know how I feel about that, or Sam Erlinger. Quentin Nelson is also hurt. Their line is pretty good, but that line goes as Quentin Nelson goes. I don't feel good about that. And they also have Marlon Mack there too, Naeem Hines. So honestly, the more I thought about my list, I kind of might have him down a little bit lower. Like I don't feel good about him here. I'll take him in my team, but it's just a lot of red flags for me. Who's their quarterback? The line may not be as good, and there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. Then I got Austin Eckler here. Eckler is on a good offense. My concern here is he's never even rushed for 600 yards. So we're really relying on his receiving game, and I think he could have a good year there. But I think we're expecting him. There's a lot of projections here, and there's something we haven't seen him do. We've never seen him be the bell cow running back, like running the ball. He's been primarily a receiving back, very good at that. But I think for him to have value, we got to see what he can do in the running game. But the offense is just so good that I think he's going to have a lot of great opportunities on this team, with especially with Herbert coming to year two. Mixon, we just talked about him a little bit. I have him at 14. I think he's another guy that I think if he's healthy this year and this offense is humming as it should be, for Joe Burrow in week year two, I think he could be a really good value. But the injuries is just one of the things that I kind of that kept him a little bit lower for me, and I like other situations a little bit better. And then for me, number 15 is going to be Najee Harris, the rookie for the Steelers. I think that offense is really needed a running back. Since but Le'Veon Bell's been out. James Conner had a decent first year, then after that he was kind of just I think there's a reason they took Najee Harris in the first round, so I think he's going to get fed a lot. A little concerned about the offensive line for the Steelers, but I think they'll be able to find ways to get him the ball. And you don't take a running back in the first round if you're not planning on running that offense through him, especially when you had other needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to run through your guys' first. You both had Clyde Edwards-Helaire at number 11. I have him at number 15, so really not that far off. He finished at running back 22 last year, so I agree he's going to progress from his previous season. And that is, in my opinion, also based on probably pass-catching work, because I still see Jerick McKinnon, I still see Darrell Williams still getting their touches in this offense. And guys, keep in mind, Andy Reid, he is someone that will bring in a running back at the 13th hour. Emron, you mentioned Le'Veon Bell last year. A couple years ago, it was LaShawn McCoy when everyone was expecting Damian Williams to be the guy there, right? So this isn't a team that's shy about adding pieces. And so far, they haven't really added, again, kind of similar to the Packers, any dynamic pieces. They lost Sammy Watkins, didn't really fill anyone in from him in the offseason. They lost Damian Williams. I mean, he didn't play last year anyways, but they filled in his spot with Jerick McKinnon, a nice pass-catching piece. But I don't think that either of those guys will demand more touches than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I just feel like if Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, what we all expect, which is for him to take a step forward, they're gonna keep him in check. These other guys are gonna get their touches, and this still is a more vertical offense. What I like most is that they should be in the red zone a lot, right? So I still feel like he has a lot of opportunity to improve. 217 touches last year, 803 rushing yards, 297 receiving. I could see that go up to 9 and 300. I don't expect out of this world numbers, and that's just why I have him back at number 15. Let's see, Taylor for Emron at 12. Where did you have Taylor, Nick? Was he inside your 10? Yeah, you had him at 9. So I have Jonathan Taylor, I believe, at number 11, and I had him at 9 prior to this information about Wentz being out, Nelson being out. So I hold him in high regard, but I agree there are going to be some issues there. You're going to have drives that are ended because of the line. You're going to have drives that are ended because of the quarterback. So there's just that little bit of less opportunity, and I feel like that news, in my opinion, gets me more excited for guys like Nyheim Hines. That he's caught 63 passes in 2 out of the last 3 years. He was second in the team in catches last year. He's been a top 3 receiver in the team the past 3 years. You mentioned Marlon Mack coming back, so there are some some holes there, right? Some things that we need to kind of discover what the game flow is going to look like with all those guys back there, and with the hobbled quarterback situation. So I pull him back to 11. Still really excited for him. Again, a guy that I'd like to have on my team, but there are some questions there. You guys are both 12, 13 on Eckler. I got him way ahead, so I already went over all that. Why I love him so much. Just think that Joe Lombardi connection transitioning from the Saints to LAC LAC still. They're gonna use him like like Austin Eckler, like Alvin Kamara. Sorry, getting tongue tied there. Let's see. You both have Harris in your top 15. I have Harris at 16, so we're splitting hairs there. I am concerned about the offensive line. And just the fact that the Steelers last year, with a very experienced offensive line, significantly better, they were 32 of 32 in rushing volume. Now, mind you, they didn't have the guys to go out there with a heavy rushing attack. James Conner consistently hurt, Anthony McFarland, Jalen Samuels. They did add Kalen Ballage this offseason, which I think he's actually going to get a little bit more playing time than people expect. And really, that goes for Anthony McFarland, too. Like, I don't see them trying to run Najee Harris into the ground like they did James Conner. James Conner had a great 2018, but then what happened to him after that? You know what I mean? Tomlin, he loves to have that bell cow back, but I feel like this Steelers team, looking a little bit younger, a little bit more fresh, they have more of an eye to the future. This is probably, Roethlisberger's swan song, right? Like, this is probably him riding out in the sunset. And I don't think that they need to bury Najee Harris right away, just because, they want to go all in for Ben to win a championship. Matthew Berry's gone on record saying, I think, Najee Harris will be a top 5 rushing volume running back this year. That may be the case, but that offensive line is completely different than what it's been in the past. It's a significant downgrade. And for that to happen, for him to be like a top producer in fantasy, I got to imagine he catches 75 plus passes this year. And I'm just not sure if that's going to be the case because of all of those receivers you have: Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, still have Eric Ebron, added Pat Freiermuth to that offense. You got weird guys like Jalen Samuels, Kalen Ballage that can catch balls out of the backfield, very versatile running backs that can play different positions. So I see them trying to be more creative in their game flow just to try and win games. And that's why I hold him back a little bit more out of my top 10. So I'll just go straight into my third tier, kind of pick up the pieces here. DeAndre Swift, I'm higher on just because of that Detroit offense. TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. Who else is going to, operate in this offense? You're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're looking at Quintez Cephas, Brashad Perriman, Tyrell Williams. I don't even know if those guys will make the roster, right? Nick, you mentioned Kerryon Johnson. Adrian Peterson was there last year as well. Both of those guys are gone. You do add Jamal Williams, who I think will have a steady role there. But DeAndre Swift, on 160 touches last year, he had 10 touchdowns. If he doubles that volume, I'm not saying he's getting to 20, but I'm saying he's going to have more than 10. So I think there's a good appetite to have for DeAndre Swift this year. Gibson, I agree with both of you. I think he's going to have a bigger workload, more pass catching opportunities. The offense should be more vertical, adding Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. They still have Logan Thomas there, J.D. McKissick. So they have weapons, but in that same caveat, those other weapons may eat just as well. And, Edwards-Helaire, who I already mentioned, who I already have at the back end for those reasons, right? All right. We'll throw up the guys. I don't have the guys up to throw up on the list, but who are some of the names that you have outside looking in who you think could penetrate like the top 10 or top 15? We'll start with Nick.
Outside you said outside the top 10 or 15?
Yeah, you're 16 through
okay.
And like, who's got the biggest opportunity to really leap forward? Maybe some guy that you have outside the top 15, but you're like, you know what? A couple of things happen, a couple of things go right for this guy, and he's RB1 top 10 player.
J.K. Dobbins, just because there's so much opportunity. It's just right now he's a quarterback. I'm not saying that he's a running back, but he's literally RB1 in that offense. Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins is running back too, but it's just different how they set up their offense. But if they take the load off of Lamar and put it on J.K., who is built to do that, to have that load, I think that he can absolutely pop. Also, Myles Gaskins. I love this guy. I loved him when he played at Washington. I think he was or Washington Huskies. I think he's like the leading rusher in their total school's history. And then he came in after some injuries in Miami last year and did the damn thing until he got hurt. I'm just worried about his health. So if he can stay healthy, he can. I could see him having maybe 70 receptions and 800 yards rushing. So I think that's absolutely possible. Those are the two that I'm really looking at.
I like it. I like it. How about you, Emron?
Yeah. So for me, DeAndre Swift is somebody I had, right at almost 15. So he's somebody I was big on last year as well. And I think you mentioned Justin. He was in a three-headed committee in Detroit last year, and he still somehow found a way to get 10 touchdowns. I have no idea. And so I think this year with this offense, I think they added Penny Sewell, right? So they're building the line in the trenches. So I think that line's going to be a little bit better. I think he's just going to be – the offense is going to go through him. So I think he could be a guy that could jump into the top 10 just because of volume and opportunity. Another guy is J.K. Dobbins. Last year as a rookie, average 6 yards a carry, had had over 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. So the guy is electric. He's a playmaker. I think he'll see a bigger volume this year. What does concern me, like Nick mentioned, is Lamar's dual threat ability, right? That he will take touchdowns. That's how the offense is. But I think Dobbins will have enough volume where if he can get a couple more touchdowns and get closer to that, maybe that 8 to 10 range in total touchdowns, I think he could climb up a little bit higher. And the guy I think both of us have in similar rankings, and it's kind of disappointing because the talent's there, is Josh Jacobs. I think Nick had him in the top 10, but I have him almost at what do I have him at? I think I have him at 20. And it's not really because of talent, because the guy can play. It's just they added Kenyon Drake, and then at the end of last year, Gruden just didn't know what he was doing. And this is another back he took in the first round, right? And it's just I feel like his usage and his effectiveness has been going down each year, and so that's concerning for me. But I think if they figure out what they're doing, that could be a guy that could jump up a little bit, could be some good value. But they also dismantled their offensive line, which was one of the best this offseason. So I think he's in a good spot, but I think Swift and Dobbins are the two guys that I think could really jump up pretty high.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I have Jacobs at number 18 and Dobbins at 19. I think Chris Carson is another name that people are really sleeping on, just because if he gets that volume in the red zone, he could also have a lot of touchdowns. I think people are just concerned with, he's not being an every down back. Like, he's a first and second down guy, and, they're going to probably pop in DJ Dallas or Rashad Penny on third down. But if he really gets hot early on, this is an offense that isn't, shy to be run heavy. And Pete Carroll kind of has that same thing. Like, the first half of the season, he was throwing all the time. Second half, he was running all the time. Same thing with the Raiders. You just really never know what you're going to get. Raiders, definitely downgraded their offensive line. You add Kenyon Drake. They really haven't done anything to the receiving game. They just feel really comfortable with, Bryan Edwards, Waller, and Henry Ruggs. I don't know why. They should be more aggressive in the free agent market for a receiver. So that does give him some upside, but at the same time, I think Kenyon Drake is going to have a steady role, and Kenyon Drake is really a guy that you can use as an every down back if you really want to. They brought him in, quote unquote, because they want to use him as a receiver. All right, that's not really his traditional role, but fine. All right, that's what you're going to roll with. But this is a guy that was, getting used inside the red zone consistently last year for the Cardinals. So if Josh Jacobs isn't getting it done, I feel like he's on a short leash, and I feel like that also comes from just his off the field stuff. He's gotten like DUIs. He's had a couple of, just random like social media kind of like what the F's, kind of situations. And I feel like the franchise just kind of put him on notice, like saying, hey man, like you don't do what you're supposed to do. We got another guy waiting to take over your spot. So, which is really weird. Cause like, I would like him to be a top 10 player, but they should have just added a receiver, not a running back. I don't get it. J.K. Dobbins, I really like as well. But like Nick alluded to, it's all on Lamar. Like if Lamar is going to be more, he's not going to be more pocket oriented. He's still going to be rolling out of the pocket and all this other stuff, extending plays. But if they get more vertical in general, I think that does open up more opportunities for Dobbins. Greg Roman's gone on the record multiple times saying we're going to pass more. We're going to pass more. This is a team that's 32 of 32 in back-to-back years and passing offense and total volume, but first in rushing opportunities and rushing volume. So there's that caveat to like about Dobbins, but at the same time, he's going to get poached in the red zone. Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, like Nick alluded to. Myles Gaskin's right there. I don't have it on this list, but I got James Robinson at number 21, who was still a top 10 back last year. I think he's going to be really good despite the emergence of Travis Etienne. Anything to pick at there, boys?
Nope, not really.
No.
All right, sounds
most
good.
of it's in line with I'm thinking too.
What's that?
I said most of it's in line with what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, that's all we got for you today, then, folks. If we don't have any more debates, that was a pretty respectful debate. We showed Twitter how to get it done. All right, well, we're gonna head out then. Everybody, take care, be well. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks, and we'll see everybody else on Canton next Sunday or next Saturday. Take care, be good.
See you guys.
Cool. Have a good one.